is actually up and running. And along with the notes, you can go to our website to review any of the presentations that are provided to us as well after the meeting. If you are not presenting, we do ask that you please mute your computer and your phones so that it will eliminate all the background noise. If you do have any questions, you can utilize the chat throughout the presentations. Or you can raise your hand if you find that isn't much easier. If either of those options are not working, you can always feel free to send Jeff Monavon. And he'll put his email into the chat for assistance with that. For those that are on the phone that have called in, you do a *6 to unmute yourself if you do need to talk or speak during the meeting. And again, it is our last work group meeting of 2023. And what a busy, quick year 2023 has been. But I think we have done some really fantastic presentations this year. And I think we've kind of come together a little bit more. I have completed my first year at Ohio EPA, and it's just been an adventure. But it has been a blessing to get to know each of you. The first thing that we have on our agenda is some updates from Ohio EPA. We as an agency had done a little bit of restructuring. So we have joined a few new people on our team. And one of those is our new supervisor, Holly. Holly, if you'll turn your camera on and you can introduce yourself.
Hi. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Holly Hoyer, and I am the supervisor for the planning unit. I have come from the solid waste program for many years, and so it's been an opportunity to meet with everyone. I may have met with you at different points in time through the solid waste program, but I am now working with the planning unit, so I look forward to seeing and meeting everyone. And if you have any questions or anything I can do to assist, please let me know. I'm happy to help. And I hear great things, so looking forward to meeting everyone.
Another new member of our team is Sarah Fink. She is our newest planner. She just joined us, 3 weeks ago, and she will introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah Fink. As Lindsay said, I'm in the middle of my 3rd week, having a great time so far. So my background is more local, environmental, public health. Prior to coming to EPA, I was working at Delaware County as the program manager over solid waste and vector. Prior to that was at Franklin County, doing a whole handful of different environmental health things. So thankfully not new to solid waste, but newer to the planning side, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, really kind of excited to bring this public health lens to planning and learn more about what you all do, to kind of see the work that prevents some of the stuff that I would see on my end, these nuisances and trash issues and whatnot. So yeah, really excited to be here. It's a great team to work with, and I can't wait to get to meet all of you. And I'm hoping to get out to a lot of the districts, see your districts and what kind of solid waste infrastructure you have in your areas. So yeah, thanks again. Really excited to be here.
Thank you, Sarah. In addition to planning, our group has actually grown and expanded our little wings a little bit. We have Carl on the line. He's not new to the agency, but he's new to our circle, and he will explain what he kind of does now.
Morning, everyone. I'm Carl Mussenden. I've worked for materials and waste management for a few decades now, mostly in the compliance monitoring enforcement sections over the years. But I've had much experience throughout all of our sub-programs. And I was once a health inspector back in the day. And recently, one of the projects I'm working on is helping coordinate and work on videos for our program to get the word out as to what we do. And there is current landfill video that's out there on our webpage. I think, Lindsay, at the end of the day, you're going to post that link. Yep. So if you're interested to just basics of a landfill, we have that out there. So you'll see additional videos coming out from our shop. And certainly if anybody has any questions for me, you're always welcome to reach out. Thanks.
Thank you. Now to more familiar faces. Ernie, do you have anything to add for updates?
I think you have me on a little bit later in the schedule to talk about a couple things. Is that right?
Are you hitting the ADRs?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Quarterly fee reports. So we had sent out an email to every district that we're trying to wrap up our 2022 quarterly fee report reviews and submit our report to the legislature. So you should have gotten an email from your planner just asking you to verify the 2022 information that we have on record. And then for those of you who normally would submit a letter to us to include in that report, telling anything that you want to about your budget, explaining a cumulative balance or anything like that, please submit the letter to us by December 15th. Is that the date we gave? Yeah, I think the 15th on your letterhead, and we will include that letter in our report. So if you have any questions about the numbers that are in the documents we gave you, just contact your planner and we'll work it out. And then you can also just send any letters that you want to include in the report to your planner, and we make sure that those get included also.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now moving on to some current grant opportunities. So I think most of you by now have heard that Ohio EPA has received the Swiffer grant. We were awarded about $4,700,000. It is a kind of a two-phase project. We will be doing a statewide comprehensive waste characterization study, which I believe all of the solid waste districts has had an opportunity to review those categories. We have kind of finalized all of those things, and we're working on buttoning up the RFP to get that sent out. The following, after we get that piece, the RFP awarded and get the comprehensive planning, the waste characterization study off the ground, we will be moving towards the SWOT analysis of all of the organics materials and when outreach to the stakeholders, with the ultimate goal of developing a comprehensive statewide organics management document. So that is that. The last, the importance of this is that the last waste characterization study in Ohio across the state was done in 2003. So it is a much needed piece, so we're thankful that we were awarded the Swiffer grant for this opportunity, and we do look forward to what it brings in the future. The next piece is more locally home. Oh, I do have to mention, we finally did receive some word on the Rio grant, and I want to thank the districts that did help, put a lot of time and effort just about a year ago in December, to put a wonderful proposal together for the Rio. It was all about business recycling across Ohio. This is still a much needed phase of work, but unfortunately, we did receive word back that we did not get that grant. It was a competitive grant, and there was 25 across the nation that were awarded, and Ohio was not one of those. So, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get another opportunity as the next round of that grant, or other opportunities that are coming down the pike will lend us an award of a future grant. Now closer to home, we have kicked off the mosquito control grant.
Thanks, Lindsay. So probably a lot of you aren't familiar with Ohio EPA's mosquito control grant. So we'll just give a little bit of background about that, explain what it is and eligibility and so forth. But this is a collaborative effort between Ohio EPA and the Ohio Department of Health. And it makes funds available to entities that implement mosquito control measures. And the goals have been to reduce potential for mosquito-borne virus outbreaks and also reduce the threat of mosquitoes from scrap tires and illegal dumps. So in order to be eligible, the primary audience has been health departments, but any government agency is available to apply for funds. So if you're not a health department, you would have to have a letter of support from a local health department. Of course, solid waste management districts, cities, municipalities, townships, so forth would all be eligible for that. But it's also a good opportunity for solid waste management districts to work with local health departments to clean up scrap tires. That's one of the main focuses of the grant, to reduce breeding source. So we have different project categories. You can do mosquito surveillance, you can do efforts to control mosquito larvae, adults. There's a community outreach and education section where you'd reach out to your communities and work with them to educate them about mosquitoes and some of the issues they bring and how to prevent breeding sources. We do allow breeding source reduction, which would be any sort of illegal dump and tire cleanups. People are allowed to hire seasonal employees, and they're allowed to contract that people do those services as well. So the maximum request for this grant is $25,000. There are limitations within each of those budget categories. We have an online application, so anyone interested can log on to that. We opened the application on November 13th, so it's been roughly a month now that we've been accepting applications, and it's scheduled to close on January 26th at 3:00 p.m. So we expect to have the awards announced in March of 2024, and then the grant period will last from roughly the middle of April to April 30th of 2025. So we do have some unallowable purchases, some qualifiers to be eligible for that. But if anyone's interested in possibly applying or working with your local health department, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. Like I say, this is a good opportunity for solid waste management districts to work with health departments, but this grant will be open for applications through the end of January. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions.
Thanks, Jeff. Michelle will be joining us. She's our roles coordinator. She'll be joining us a little later. And so we'll sneak her in towards the end of our agenda. And that will conclude, I believe, all of our Ohio EPA updates. Next, we have some updates from Oswego. Erica Tucker was our rating person, and we have some new members here at Oswego as well. So,
yeah, hi, good morning. We had our last Oswego meeting November the 2nd, and yes, we do have a new president, which is Mr. Brad Petrie, and then vice president will be Jen Jones. So thank you all for having me this year with Oswego. It was a very exciting and busy year for Oswego, but I appreciate all the help, and yeah, Merry Christmas.
well, I appreciate all that you've done for me over the year, and obviously it's not a goodbye, but thank you for all your efforts, and thanks to Oswego as well. Brad, I don't think is on, but Jen, do you have anything to add or to say hi? I know you'll be on a little bit later. I think you're on mute. Maybe not. Nope. Well, we'll give you a few minutes to figure that out.
You might need to log off and then log back on.
Jeff says to log off and log back on. If not, we can try to call you in. Like call the number.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Look at you go.
It's the settings. There's because I have a setup where we do some in a classroom type setting. I have to switch the microphone from. It was trying to find that microphone. I apologize.
Right.
It's my fault.
No problem.
But anyway, hi, I'm Jen Jones. I'm the new vice president for Oswego. Brad's unable to attend today, so looking forward to another year of developments for the districts, and glad to be working with you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Alrighty. Now we will move to Mr. Ernie, the rock star. Ernie.
Me again. Oh, isn't
You-
everybody lucky?
You again, yes.
So I just have a couple things that I'm going to bring up. The first one is just kind of an FYI. I'm just the messenger on this one, so please don't shoot me. And I'm just going to give you an upfront disclaimer that we've been giving some sort of limited authority to talk about what I'm going to be talking about. So please respect our position and don't debate us about this. If you want to have a further discussion about it, then we can have that in a future meeting where legal staff is present. But we had a situation arise recently regarding a siting strategy that was in a ratified plan that we had not commented on in our non-binding advisory opinion. And it became an issue when we were trying to decide whether or not to approve or disapprove the plan. Ultimately, we're able to approve it. So it didn't end up being, I don't know what you want to call it. But anyhow, so for the future, if a draft plan has a siting strategy that contains citing criteria, engineering requirements, size limitations on a facility, or has a public comment review for a permit either before or after that's for Ohio EPA, you'll be getting a comment in your non-binding advisory opinion about it. And then if that cited strategy still appears in the ratified plan, we'll be putting something in the findings and orders about that as well. So I just wanted to bring that up because that's kind of a future direction that we're going on our reviews. For those of you who've been here a while, you remember that we did used to comment on that. And we quit doing it at some point because we were told to quit. So just to be aware that the same doesn't really apply to any existing or proposed rules in a plan because the law that deals with our approval process says that rules are not one of the criteria we use when determining whether to approve or disapprove a plan. So we're hands off with those. So that's what I have to say about it. Again, if there's any people who want to have further discussion about it, we can set that up with you. Just wanted to give you an FYI on that one. And then the second thing that I am just going to talk about here briefly is the state solid waste management plan. So I think you remember that we adopted a new one back at the very end of 2019, which is the one we're currently operating under. At the time that we had done that, it was kind of with the understanding that we had made some tweaks to it to provide additional flexibility to solid waste districts. But at some point in the future, we would be having a larger scale discussion about the goals that are in the state plan. And given some of the issues that we've had crop up recently, particularly with drop-offs and meeting goal number 1, which is the recycling opportunity goal, it kind of seems like a good time for us to go on and start opening up those discussions. So we had kind of presented to MAC that we recommend that we open up those discussions, and they've agreed that we'll do that. So I would expect that a lot of next year is going to be spent talking about the state plan. There's a lot of portions of the state plan that are not relevant anymore. So most of those will just be a cursory go through. But for the goal portion, I'm expecting we'll have a lot of discussion about that. And we don't have any preconceived ideas of what those discussions are going to look like, what recommendations might come out of it, what the future of the goals are going to look like. So it's kind of the time to come to the table with whatever kind of proposals you might have, whether that's continued tweaks to what we have existing or something entirely out of the box that would be different from any direction that we've had before. So I'm kind of challenging Oswego to develop a proposal that you can bring back to MAC and to do that without EPA involved, unless you want us there to answer some questions and stuff, but just so that you have an unbiased proposal that's not biased by us to present to MAC. I think the more people that can come to the table with a proposal, the better our discussions will be, because right now the world is open in terms of what our goals could look like. And so we hope to have those kind of discussions here and next year with MAC. So that's really all I had to talk about with that, just as a challenge for people to come to the table with proposals, because we're going to need ideas, and the more we have, the better our discussions will be. I see that John Manier, you have a question?
Yeah, Ernie, I think I know the answer to this, but I wanted to make sure. For those of us that are currently right in the middle of updating our current plan, you don't anticipate any of these discussions or anything changing anything that we would be doing for the updates or anything like that? Or will, if something comes up, will we need to go back and make adjustments? Do you anticipate anything like that?
No, John, the way it works is, I mean, I'm assuming that this discussion is going to take at least a year. And so I would not anticipate we would have a new state plan until the earliest in 2025. And then once that's adopted, we have a year to update the rule that implements it. And so any district would not be required to start using the new state plan or the new rule until it's time for them to actually start. So if you're in process when any of that happens, when the new rule comes into effect, then you continue to go under the plan, under the state plan and the rule that you were under when you started updating your plan. So it would be from that point forward. Anybody who starts updating their plan from that point forward would use the new state plan and the new rule.
Perfect. Thanks, Ernie.
Rob, I see that you have your hand up also. Rob, do you want to unmute yourself? Rob, if you've unmuted yourself, we can't hear you. Well, Rob, if you want to put in the chat what it was you wanted to ask, we can address that. Are there any other questions at this point?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. How do you propose on initiating the meetings or the conversation as it pertains to drop off the access goal 1? How do you propose initiating that? Because I believe there are several people out there working under access.
Yeah, Rob, I mean, again, this is for moving forward in the future once we have a new state plan. It could be that the access goal entirely goes away with whatever new goals are chosen. So we don't have any preconceived idea of what the new goals are going to look like. Maybe it's an adjustment to the access goal like we had in the 2019 state plan. Maybe it's totally getting rid of both the access goal and the percentage goal and moving on to something else. So right now, we're totally open in terms of what the discussions want to be in terms of what those goals want to look like. But in the meantime, for those of you that are operating under an existing state solid waste plan, nothing changes for you. You continue to do what you said you were going to do in your plan.
I understand.
Okay.
You have to get to a little further down the road before, with internal discussions, before you can move ahead.
Well, this isn't going to be just internal discussions, Rob. I mean, like I said, this is going to be discussed at MAC, probably at all of their meetings in the upcoming year. And like I said, I recommend that Oswego have its own discussion separate from MAC and separate from us to talk about, what you feel like makes the most sense in the field. You guys are out there. We're not out there with you. You know what realities are and what's not reality, and to come to the table with something that you feel, makes sense for moving forward. So it won't just be EPA having internal discussions. We'll be having a lot of discussions in the public meetings with MAC. And then, if Oswego wants us to have meetings with you, we can easily do that. We just would prefer not to influence what your proposal would end up being.
Understood.
Okay. Let's see, John, it looks like you have a question too also. John, I'm not sure if there you go. I'm not sure if your hand, there you go, John, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, Brad and Jennifer, welcome to Oswego, since you're going to be taking on this nice, fine duty. But Ernie, one of the things you had mentioned, Oswego maybe getting together and start working on something. do you have any idea what kind of a timeline you would like to see something from Oswego to you guys? Or, you know,
No, John, I don't have any idea how long these discussions are going to take with MAC. I don't know what kind of information they're going to want us to provide. So, I mean, the best thing I can say is, the sooner you can do it, the better. But like, I fully expect that it's going to take at least a year discussions with MAC before we settle on what's going to happen. So you have time. MAC has sort of requested that we set up a subcommittee to have discussions on MAC's behalf, and maybe that's what Oswego would choose to do too, is to have a subcommittee of people. It's only a recommendation. We can't require you to come up with a proposal. It's just Oswego came up with a proposal the last time around, and we ended up incorporating it into the state plan. So I think it was the first time that we'd really had a proposal from Oswego, and I think it was really beneficial for MAC to have that come from you. So that's kind of why I'm challenging Oswego with that.
great. Yep, thanks.
Any other questions at this point? I'll be sending out the schedule for MAC's meetings for 2024 here before too long. And if you want to be on the meetings, I can send you the meeting invitation series. So just stay tuned for more. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks, Ernie. So kind of as a follow-up with that, we have had some discussion. I've kind of, I don't know, kind of been the point person for the federal grant opportunities. And then when we did receive word that Brad and Jen were the new leadership for Oswego, we kind of had a brainstorming idea meeting. And it was thankful enough that you guys have already started some conversations of, the state updates. And then I have the whole aspect of, how can we tie in all of the work that I'm looking through the federal opportunities back to what is going on at the local level. So a proposal of an idea came about of possibly doing a survey that would not only allow us to kind of gather some information that possibly could help Oswego as a whole kind of figure out better understanding of what's existing, what the challenges are, what some hurdles are, but also maybe start looking at some broadcasting of future ideas and vision for the solid waste districts, so that as these grant opportunities keep coming quickly, there's several different buckets of federal funding that we've kind of tapped into, that we can also take this information and pair grant opportunities, and that way I can hopefully get the information back out to the districts. As the federal world, there seems to be like some state funding, and then there's also targeted funding for local governments, which would be the solid waste districts. Not only is there infrastructure money that we're going to learn about a little later from Lucas County, but there's also, energy and what's the other one? Energy and air. And there's all kinds of different categories, I should say, that we kind of all fit into this whole, it's like this big net and weaving of overlapping like structure of how the federal government is putting some funds out. So this was an idea, again, that we're just trying to come together to basically create the most efficient way to kind of get us all some ground zero information. Where are we at? Baseline information. Where are we kind of heading to each as your individual districts, so that we can hopefully not only move the state plan into a district or into a motion that's more favorable for everybody to play in, but also finding some support through funding opportunities, whatever those may be, to kind of to bridge those gaps if there are gaps identified, and to also be able to get you guys the information in a timely manner. So that's kind of what our vision is. I'm certain Jen can jump on and add a little bit more from the OSWATO side.
Okay. So during the brainstorming, the general idea was we all have our little, we all have a lot of the same kinds of problems, the same kinds of challenges. Some districts more so than others, obviously. But with these new sources of funding coming out, it would be helpful to work together on some of these larger grants, like a Swiffer grant or something like that. If we could get, rather than one district asking for funding, if 3-4 districts asked for funding for all the same thing because they all were having the same problem, it would be a much more viable grant application than just one district asking alone. But how do you know if other districts are having the same problem as you? So one of the purposes of the survey is to get a general idea of what everybody's big asks are, what everyone's big challenge is, so that we could potentially work together to write grants together to solve problems. Another thing is sometimes there's no grant available for what you want, what you need to get done. And perhaps if everybody is having that problem, maybe the powers that be would say, okay, well, if that seems to be everybody's problem, well, why don't we provide some funding for it? We have these unlimited funds right now. We have all these extra funds. Let's find a way to, if that's the problem, well, we could fund that. And they perhaps allow a category where we would be able to apply for things like that are not typically something that's covered by the grant. So that's the general idea for the survey. So we're going to be sending out a survey where it's in the works now. It's a very short, we're keeping it short. We're not asking for a dissertation. But we really, really, really want everybody to take the 10 minutes to respond to the I think it's 5 questions, 6 questions on the survey. Some of them are very simple. Some are very vague for a purpose. What is your biggest challenge? Really answer it. Take 5 minutes and answer it, because as we personally will go through all of those responses, we can find things that harmonize and we'll go, oh, well, these are all the same kinds of problems. And so it really would help us provide feedback to the Ohio EPA, the US EPA, as well as help us work together as in OSWATO to help each other out. So when the survey goes out, I'm not sure exactly when Lindsay was going to send it out soon, but we just begging honestly for the data, because it really let it help us help you to get the information out there, so that we can work together to get these things done.
Exactly. In a short instance that we've kind of really came up just in the last week is that a conversation sparked about some household hazardous waste and charm events or charm facilities. And so there's been some interest in that. And so I've been looking at some federal opportunities that, we have to kind of do some legwork before we can actually go apply, right? So it's what's working out there, what's not working, and we have to kind of build that baseline. Another idea that just recently came about was, somebody, a county was changing over some of their fleets with alternative fuels. And so not only are we, we're focusing on waste materials, but we're now looking at energy and how do we do this most, reduction of our carbon footprint. So there's a lot of these types of things. Yes, that might be down the road, but if we're not, dropping these seeds and ideas out there, then we can't connect all or any of the opportunities that may be coming our way into this bigger vision or plan, or even taking a chance to do that. So hopefully, if you have any any dying desire or a burning question that we should be asking, feel free to either send Brad or Jen an email, or myself, or all three of us, however you wish. But, you know, I think it's just, we're trying to think outside the box to find some baseline, and then also kind of that vision of how do we kind of collaborate and really find the solutions to our problems. True solutions, not just Band-Aids.
Agreed. And there was a comment from Michelle in the chat about asking the capacity to participate in an application. That might be actually a good question. Are they not, even though it's a problem, do they have the bandwidth to take on yet one more thing? I
Correct.
get staff of 4, like totally get
Oh.
it. So that might be a quick, you know, scale of 1 to 5. How much do you think you really want to do it? Well, we'll talk about it, but that's a great suggestion, Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. The other thing with that, so US EPA did hear all of the concerns from rural America, and these smaller districts that they're not grant writers, they don't have grant staff, they don't, you know, large staff, those things. So they have actually created, an outlet for local communities to tap into. So they're called TICTACs. I don't know what TICTAC actually stands for. I probably should, but it's a technical assistance something. Community, there we go. That's kind of the fill in the blanks for TICTACs. Anyways, it's an opportunity for local communities and governments to tap into this source, and they actually help evaluate your program. They help you kind of write the basics and those things. I don't know exactly how far they can go because I'm not a local government. So we'll need somebody to say, hey, I'm going to step up and ask the TICTACs to see how far we can go with this. But it's been sold as that's really the, you know, the extended hand to help the rural communities be a player in this funding opportunity. And go.
Rob?
Yes, Rob, go.
You know, I've always had, you know, one, you know, preconceived idea about federal grants. And it's the fact that you have a point where it's a loss to you because it will throw you as a standalone waste district into an annual audit cycle at a much more expensive cost for having to have your audit review team go through the federal grant as well as your own expenditures. And it's, I've always looked at it as anything at $25,000, $50,000, you're going to spend $25,000 over a period of 3 or 4 years just on audit costs to take that much money in. It's, you know, it's something for people to think about whose books aren't, how should I put it, rolled into the counties that they belong to, because somebody's going to eat that audit cost. Anybody there get me on that one?
I don't understand this.
I mean, this is Jen again. We get an annual audit. We've always had an annual audit. It costs $2,000 maybe a year. That's required by our auditor. We have to get an audit. I guess I've never had a major something that costs thousands of, you know, multiple thousands of dollars just because I've never gotten a federal grant. I've gotten lots of state grants, multiple state grants simultaneously, and I've never been required. Do the federal grants trigger some kind of special super duper audit? I've never heard of that.
You may get audited every year for $2,000, but essentially all you're getting is a cursory audit attached to the county audit that you're in, all right? But if you have to get a full-blown audit on your books, even by the Ohio auditor, just for the funds that you received in the state of Ohio, which you have to get every 3 to 4 years if you're a standalone district outside the county audit system, you will pay over $6,000 for that. And once you get federal monies, it will trigger you into an annual audit cycle, which you'll probably pay $6,000 a year for instead of $2,000.
How do you know when we're a standalone? We're standalone, we're separate from the county, and we've never had an audit like that. I mean, we've always done the annual, like the county, we operate through Geauga and Trumbull counties, obviously. And we follow along with because our financing is kind of with the audit, the Geauga auditor. We follow the Geauga auditor's requirements. I guess my question is, if you're a standalone, how do you know you have to do this super duper audit?
Because we've been through it.
But who's saying you have to
We
do it?
brought the question to our attorneys. And this is the response that we got back. Unless you're going to drag in a pile, unless you're going to drag in a pile of federal money, and I mean a pile, it's really not worth it to a small district. Unless your county's willing to pay the additional, cost of federal audit. And you're going to get it every year, and it's going to cost more money because it's going to be more lengthy.
Well, we'll have to look into this issue a little bit farther. There is billions of dollars that are applicable to these projects. So, it's not just a small, I mean, there are some smaller ones. Lucas County got $4 million for their project that they're going to be talking a little bit more about. So there is opportunities for even if we're collaborating on these bigger pictures of even fleet changeovers or the household hazardous waste, it might be more regional based, or it might be metropolitan areas, where we really have to think outside the box to kind of find ways to solve some of the challenges that we're seeing, now and forecasted in the future. But this is something to thank you for bringing it up. It is something to definitely look into, of the extra costs, the hidden costs behind receiving the funds. But I think there is some opportunities as well. So, but thank you. With that, look forward to the information coming to you. We do encourage you and strongly encourage you to answer the questions to how I guess however you want. I mean, but the more information and the more honest that you are, it can really bring up some helpful direction. All right, moving on. We have Dawn Collins from Portage County. She's going to talk about her charm facility that just came up. This is titled our up and coming or recently online kind of facilities and ideas. So Dawn, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for your willingness to share with us your story. And I'm excited to hear more.
Good morning. I'm going to share this PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to talk about the recent updates our district has had. So hopefully you can see this. Yes?
Not yet.
Not yet, Dawn.
Not yet. Okay. Hold on, it's coming. Include sound. We even practiced this, I tell you.
That's what I just told Jeff. I said, we even practiced this.
We really did. Like, we made sure it happened.
So you hit the share button up the top.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
And the lights, and then the sound, right? And then you go and click on your PowerPoint. There you go.
Is it showing?
It is.
Oh, is it there?
It is. It is there.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's go with it. Okay, so speaking of all that charm and the HHW that you were talking about, we have recently implemented all these great changes, but we're going to talk about a little bit of who Portage County is. And we are located here between Cleveland, Youngstown, and Akron. We have 504 square miles. We have a population of about 161,000. We have pretty diverse. We're 4 cities, 18 townships, 5 villages. We do have 3 county commissioners and a county administrator. To get where we were going, I think it's kind of crazy to hear the different challenges, because all of our challenges are constantly changing. And if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said I need more CDL drivers. And now I'm not sure what it is that I need, but it's not drivers. My drivers are fantastic. So it does constantly change what our needs are. And I guess 2 years ago, I would have said I need more programs rather than, it's just crazy. So let's talk about this. The district itself has 11 employees. We have 3 administrative. We have a mechanic, 6 CDL drivers and a laborer. We do run 9 non-subscription curbside routes with 7 recycling drop-offs. With the addition of the private haulers, we're able to hit 92% access. So that's pretty awesome. 2 years ago, we started really looking at our programs and what we could do to change. Our drop-offs looked like they belonged for trash and garbage, and they were really treated like that. And we were really frustrated. We were paying the extra contamination fees, and we looked at what we could do to change that. I know I reached out to a lot of different people, and I received so much help from so many of you, and I'm super grateful for that. And so in-house, we took these containers and we painted them and relabeled them. And you can see from the bottom picture of each one how we changed. So our contamination rate went from, I think it was 25% down to under 14%. Along with our drop-offs, we were able to do building modifications. And, you know, we hadn't touched our building in, I don't know, a really, really long time. Along with our landscaping, we painted our building, we painted our containers, we updated our drop-off. These are just programs that we were really looking at starting to do to kind of change our image. It became really important to change our image. This photo shows the actual solid, whoa, let's go back for a second. This shows our solid waste district as a whole. The left building is our maintenance building. It's where we house our trucks. We have 8 diesel trucks. I know we talked about earlier, starting to go towards newer trucks and a newer type of truck. We did try that once already. It didn't work out so well for us. So someday I hope to do that again, but we're not quite there yet. Can you still hear me, Lindsay?
I can hear
Yes,
you.
I can hear you. I'm sorry, I was eating my
I feel like
carrot.
I'm just rattling on and on. Okay,
No.
our middle building is our offices, and then the right side of our building is our charm facility now and our transfer station, and where we actually run our HHW now. So we'll get into that in a second. We do have almost 7 acres. We have a nice railway that runs behind us. And our drop off is now nice and updated there. You know,
Don, I'm
2
gonna
years.
interrupt you 1 second. It does appear that the slides aren't moving, but we somehow have access to move the slides.
Okay, let's
So
move the slides.
So people might have to move their own slide. At the bottom, click on the arrow. I don't know why that feature's there, but The presentation will probably be sent out afterwards as well. So your information and your story is more important than what, I mean, the slides show the picture, but keep talking.
Yep, are we, okay. We are on the Brimfield drop off, if anybody can see that now. I'm not sure what you're looking at. Nope, you're not moving. That's sad. But maybe you're moving now. What do you think?
Yeah, we can move our own. What page are you on?
Okay. Okay, we're on, this is are we on page 7, 6, 6?
And page 6 on mine is the Portage County Solid Waste District.
Yep, that's perfect.
Perfect.
So
great.
this is,
Thank you.
yep, this is the actual facility that I'm located at. On the left is our trucks and where they're housed at, where our mechanic works out of. Able to fix the trucks that run our curbside routes. Our drivers service about 20,000 homes, picking up single stream curbside recycling. And I know that we're pretty still unique in doing that. So one of my biggest frustrations was the phone calls that were happening. You know, what do I do with a television? What do I do with a computer? And I have to tell you, Portage County had no answers for this. We were really struggling. I was sending people to Stark County to get rid of televisions, and you know, they were paying $20, driving 40 minutes away to get rid of televisions, and that was really frustrating for us. And that's when we really started to figure out what we were doing as a district. We started to pair with Greenboard IT, and on Saturday mornings we would drive to different communities and host electronic events. And the residents did have to pay. I think it was $10 a TV 2 years ago. It's $20 now a TV, but they could be as big as you want CRT televisions, and they would go right then out of their houses. So that was a really big, important piece for our residents of Portage County. Just to have that option to get rid of televisions, which is something we haven't been able to do ever. Also, computers, they wanted to know that their data was going to be safely removed. And the company that we're working with is the R2V3 certified, or exactly what that is. I have it written down somewhere if you ask me later. So moving on to Brimfield Township drop off, the programs that we ended up adding over the past 2 years. Our batteries, automotive fluids, use oil, antifreeze, transmission fluid. One of our most recent was US flag retirement box. Food composting. In March, we had some really big storms here, and the phone calls were continuous. And I'm like, what are we going to do to help with the yard waste? And I kept calling around. And I found a company to take as many loads as we could bring all year long for $400, which I thought was fantastic. So I think to date, we've taken like 51 tons of yard compost, and they can just fill it and fill it and fill it. And I think it's 2 miles from here that we drive our own 40 yard and are able to get rid of it. So you'll see that in, I think, the next slide. Actually, this is Brimfield Township's drop off itself, and what we offer here: batteries, our food compost, our yard waste, our plastic bags. We do pair with Trex, and a lot of our community partners are able to get the Trex benches. Yeah. Hopefully you can see my drop box for the flag. We did add the.
Actually, all of a sudden it started working, so now you're advancing. So you're good.
I think I ended up clicking something right. I'm not sure. We should have practiced more. This is our food collection. They are a company based probably 4 miles down the road as well. We were able to add pumpkins and gourds to this, which jumps tonnage quite a bit, which is pretty neat as well. And everyone always likes to go buy the pumpkins, and then what do you do with that? They're just gonna sit and rot, especially with a house that doesn't have a lot of acreage. So, or you're gonna throw it in the trash. It's been super helpful to be able to have this kind of have a program like this. Our 40-yard and the company will take our Christmas trees. This is the first year we'll be able to take Christmas trees. The Charm did open September 18th this year. It is a drive-through facility. It is open on Mondays and Thursdays from 10 to 2, and then the first Monday of the month from 10 to 6. We have one employee, a couple more on the way that are EPA 608 certified, being able to remove Freon. And then we will also take, so that means we'll take the appliances that have the Freon. That was a really big question all the time. What do I do with this dehumidifier? What do I do with this refrigerator? And there's been 0 options in Portage County. So finally, we were able to offer these options. And we take electronics here, along with cooking oil here, and, you know, everything. So on top of that, latex paint is really big. On top of that, you know, we were like, okay, what next? I have no idea. We were just keep going. So what do we do with acid? What do we do with mercury? What do we do with, well, our answer currently is, well, it's residential waste, and Portage County doesn't have a program, and we have no answers for you. So we ended up developing a program where now the first Monday of the month from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., we have Clean Earth in here. And as you can see in this picture, on the right-hand side, the big box truck, they run the event from 2 to 6. While our Charm facility operates on the left side. So anything that's not hazardous we'll take, and anything that's hazardous, Clean Earth takes. See, you can see quite the line on the bottom of that picture. We will host our first ever farm tire collection program. We're kind of lucky because we have our own infrastructure. We can haul our own tires, our own scale. This is our education and our outreach. Portage County is really big on touch-a-trucks. Kids love to climb inside of a recycling truck. There's 2 steering wheels, one on each side, so it is super successful to run those events. The middle photo is at, how much do I charge for HHW? I don't charge for HHW. I feel like Portage County has been lacking for so long that I felt like we really needed to step up our game. And so we're really trying to do that. I will get to Rubber City. I do have answers for that. I actually went to all of my vendors and I said, what questions are they going to ask me about you? And I need to be prepared. So I do have their answers for you. And we do work the county fair every year. Along with this is all of our partners. We're very, you can copy exactly what we do. I told them maybe everybody would want to do what we do because I think we are pretty cool. And this is a sheet that I definitely think you may want. Lindsay can feel free to send that out. And then this is just a video showing how our Charm facility works. Hopefully it works. very dramatic, I know. Who has questions for me? How did I get the resources to build this facility? So this facility has been here. We used to be a MRF, and Waste Management and Kimball both have a MRF really close to me. And instead of changing our dual stream facility into a single stream facility and investing millions of dollars, we made the choice to remove our equipment because it wasn't cost effective to put in millions of dollars for this facility. So I have the facility. My staff is the one that really chose to make this facility what it is. And with that picture, you can see they actually did a lot of the actual work that we needed to do to make it is what it is. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Come visit. Let me answer the question about the anaerobic static pile. I don't really know. They came in, they swap I have a 95-gallon container. They swap it weekly every Friday. It doesn't smell. It's double encased for the food. Let me get back to a better picture of that. It's double encased, so I have 95 that's sealed in here. Actually, I have 2 of them in here just in case it gets filled quickly. And they come and they swap the container every Friday. And I went to the facility. I was really surprised that the facility didn't smell either. The local Boy Scouts, I actually have a driver that is a Boy Scout leader. And that is a picture of him and his son.
This looks like a really cool facility. I would like to come and visit as well, as Rick mentioned. Now with I know since I think you said you collect the HHW just once, the hours aren't the same as the CHARM facility. Do you have issues with people bringing in the HHW outside of the collection hours?
I need to answer Amy's question. Yes, Amy, we do bale our own plastic film and we ship it out when there's 15 or more bales. They're about 1,000 pounds each, and Trex picks them up. The HHW hours are the first Monday of every month, so they mirror the same hours as the CHARM on the first Monday of the month. So the first Monday of the month, we open both from. The CHARM is open from 10 to 6 on the first Monday of the month, and the HHW opens from 2 to 6 on the first Monday of the month. So the marketing on that is quite a bit, and it's broadcasted on our website, our Facebook page, and everywhere we can. So people are really good at calling. We haven't had much confusion on that, but I can tell you that it's been really, really busy. The resources hasn't really been too hard. Like, since we had so much infrastructure already established here, the scrap metal actually brings in money. It's surprising to me how many people bring scrap metal. We have a 4-yard out there, and the scrap metal container is full almost every day. We have to empty our scrap metal almost every day. So we actually do make a profit on our scrap metal. We do make a profit on our plastic bales. That does not take into account the labor hours that goes into making the bales itself. But at the end of the day, I think we make 12 cents a pound on the plastic bags. And then with offering the shredding for our residents, I think it's 5 cents. I mean, that market always changes though, but at least it's something that we can offer, and it's not usually a negative cost for us.
Hey, Dawn. Do you have a rough idea of how long it takes you to create 5 bales of film, 15 bales of film?
So we just started that program, I bet a year ago, maybe not even. And we've already shipped out 2 semi-loads.
Wow, that's impressive. Have you experienced or noticed a lot of contamination in with the film? Like, do you have a lot of oversight when someone is baling it that they'll go through and pick stuff out?
Yes, my drivers will pick anything out. If somebody thinks that it is maybe a plastic film and it's not, but
Mhm.
I really don't have any problems with that at all. It's a lot of communities that want a bench for their 501c3 that brings me the plastic bags. Like a lot of the Lions Club sign up for the trucks program, or the schools will sign up for it. Many of the 501c3s do that, and they bring it to me. They have to weigh it themselves, and then they bring it to me, and then the district actually makes, I think, 12 cents. But I wanted to say something else about that. Oh, a lot of, Brimfield Township actually has curbside recycling here. But we have 7 drop-off dumpsters, 8 yards here. And it is full almost every day here. Just, I don't know if it's businesses or not Portage County. I'm not sure what it is, but our drop-off is full almost every day. And it is pretty amazing to see people bring their single stream recycling, and then they'll bring it in plastic bags or trash bags, and then they'll take that plastic bag and walk it over to our container for plastic bag recycling.
All right, I am gonna have to stop you right there. We have 2 additional presentations for this section. Fantastic job. I am so impressed with how you have built your network, and it is a big team up there. It truly is a team effort, and I think your community feels that as well. Fantastic ideas and discussion. You keep putting your questions in the chat, and I'm certain that even if we have to, we can build like a question and answer sheet back out. Apparently, and I'm thankful that there is a lot of just interest in these types of facilities. The next facility that we are going to look at is kind of a build off of the Charm facility, but different. It is the Cincinnati Reuse Hub, and there's been a lot of talk about these reuse hubs and how does that play into our communities? How can we benefit from them? How are they different than what we're already kind of doing? So we at the partnership conference, we had a snippet of an introduction. And so I asked Colleen to join us today to kind of share the resource hub story. And Colleen,
Yep.
take it away.
Well, and then I actually just want to say, so we are officially the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. So we do have a recycling component as well. But I'll kind of get into that here in a minute. And hopefully this will cooperate. Okay, can everybody see that? I hope. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you. We're just getting a presenter window snippet that says got it.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I'll stop sharing and try this again. Okay, can you all see that now?
No.
Ugh.
It worked the first time. I think you just need to click the got it thing.
Okay. Well, I'm not used to this. Is actually
Apparently
through
Teams
Canva.
updated and there's all of these new options that I didn't.
Okay, great.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, well. I'm still not sure. I'm not seeing anything where it says got it. So
It went away when you started over.
okay.
hit share, and then whatever your screen or window is.
Let me try to get out of this real quick and see if I can stop sharing or do it again here.
Beautiful. Good job.
Okay. I know it's like tech is not my friend, so so I'm happy I got this far. So I have to first say, just Dawn, it's like when you're going through all your stuff, I'm like, yeah, we love you, because that's kind of what we're doing as well. So I had not heard about you, so I was excited to hear about you, and I'm glad that we're not the only one, to be honest. And there's going to be some things that we're going to be stealing from you, like the flags and some other things. So as Lindsay said, my name is Colleen McSwiggan, and I'm the Executive Director for the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. And the hub formed in 2020. There were 4 sort of separate programs that had all been sort of independently started. There was Zero Landfill Cincinnati, which was started in 2008, and that actually spun off of one from Cleveland, which I think was the first zero landfill in the United States, as far as I know. And that program would get architectural and design samples, so tile and carpet squares and wallpaper books and things like that, and have them available for people to take for whatever use they had for them. Pleasant Ridge Montessori, which is just a local school here, had a TerraCycle program, so they collected about 5 different kinds of things like chip bags, granola bar wrappers for TerraCycle. Not sure how familiar everybody is with TerraCycle itself, but that is a for-profit company that companies like Procter & Gamble and Kroger will pay TerraCycle to collect their different packaging, some of the different products they make, to recycle it. And then TerraCycle pays nonprofits like us, like Scout Troops, etc., to collect those things. And then we get a little bit of money for every box of things that we send to them. And then the last 2 programs were both started at Mount St. Joseph University. That was my sort of former life. I was the chemistry lab manager there, and I was a member of the sustainability committee. And we started doing community electronic recycling days in 2012. And those got to be very popular. And one of those was the kind of the impetus for starting the hub. And I'll get into that in a minute. And then we did what was called Beyond the Bin collection. So that's for the other kind of hard to recycle things. So for 1 month out of the year, we would collect gently used school supplies. For 1 month, we would collect the packing materials and things like that, that we could then pass on to other organizations for their use. And our mission is to revolutionize how people think about things and to provide a place where almost anything can be recycled or reused. And then to kind of put a little bit more details behind that, we want people to focus on other things that they can do as consumers to minimize the resources that they're consuming, for lack of a better word. So we want them to think about, do I even need this thing, or do I just want this thing? And if that is something that they want to get, is it something that had to be shipped from, halfway across the world? Is it something that was made locally? What were the transportation costs involved in that? Where did the raw materials have to come from? Is it petroleum based? Is it something that could be grown? All kind of taking all of that into account so that we can minimize just across the board resource use so that we can mitigate the effects of climate change. I don't think it's a surprise. I'm hoping everybody understands that climate change is a real thing. It's not coming. It is here. We've seen it locally. We've had huge landslides in parts of Cincinnati just because of drought, and then huge rain, downpours. There's lots of health effects for that when you're talking about heat islands where inner city areas just tend to hold the heat in, and then that actually affects, asthma and a bunch of other health issues. And so we're just trying to kind of decrease all of those issues as much as we can, kind of doing our little part to fight against climate change. And that's kind of the goal, but we know that there's not always a place to go with things. So that's why we created the hub. So we've got one place for things to be dropped off, and then we send them out to where they've got to go. So in some places have called this hub and spoke recycling. We actually came up with the name before we knew that was what this was called. But that's kind of what we do. So we have different ways to collect the materials, take it to the hub, process it if it need be, and then ship it out to the different places where it's got to go to. So we have some permanent offsite collections at schools, businesses, scout troops will do collections. We'll have one-day events, sometimes at farmers markets. We'll have periodic offsite events, like for low-income communities, maybe an electronics collection. And then we'll do periodic on-site events at the hub as well. So electronics collections, pop-up nonprofit collections. So like there's an organization out of Oxford, Ohio that collects just old socks. So we'll just do that for a month or two. Then we also do pickups by our staff. We have a cargo van and a box truck that we just got. Both of those were with Ohio EPA funding. So thank you very much for that. And then we do public drop-offs at the hub. So we have a warehouse and people can bring those 2 days a week on Thursdays and Saturdays just to drop their items off. And then as far as how things get out of the hub, we have nonprofits that will pick items up during close to the public hours. So that's things like wrapped utensils that will go to food banks. There's a local nonprofit called Matthew 25 Ministries that does a lot of disaster relief. They get sort of the medical items that we get. So walkers, canes, empty prescription bottles. And then we also deliver or ship things to offsite locations, either to recyclers or to other nonprofits for their use. And then we have one-day takeaway events at the hub where people can come and, sort of our reuse area, which again, I'll get into a little bit down the line here. People can take whatever they want for free. And we feel very strongly that it needs to be free just because partly for selfish reasons, because it's like, if it's free, people are more likely to take it. And if they take it out, then we can take more stuff in. But part of it too, is we want this to be equitable. So if somebody sees something that they need or that they can give another life to, we don't want cost to be a barrier for them to having that item. And then we also have takeaway during our regular open hours at the hub. So the same as the hours when we're open for the public drop off, people can come upstairs in our warehouse and then shop that reuse area again for free. Our facility itself, we rent about 32,000 square feet over 3 floors in a warehouse space in Lower Price Hill, which is kind of west of downtown Cincinnati. So we have on the first floor is what we call our mini hub. So that's the recycling drop-off area, which is what this picture is of. So we have kind of a bin for everything. It's depending on what it is. You can see there's some Gaylords there, kind of with the guy with the green shirt. So those are Gaylords that would collect number 5 plastics, number 6 plastics, number 1 plastics. Kind of on the left side of that picture there's some bigger green bins. That's how we collect all of our different styrofoam types, and then also plastic plant pots that we then have available for reuse. And then our second floor, we have about 10,000 square feet, and that's storage for baled materials. And then we also have about 2,000 square feet on that floor just for sort of a remaker space. So we have a First Friday community craft night with a different theme each month, and then we also have that available too for other nonprofits if they want to do a repair fair. Where we're actually have one coming up soon where we're going to be fixing up telescopes after the first of the year, because we have a guy who is an astronomer who was locally known, and he's been on like NPR and public broadcasting, PBS and things like that. And he kind of said, hey, would you have room for me to do this here? And I was like, that'd be great. And then we have our fourth floor, and that's the biggest area that we've got. So that's 20,000 square feet. About half of that is our reuse area where the public can shop for items. And then kind of the back part of that space is our main processing facilities. So right now we have 2 balers. They're not sort of an industry standard size baler, let's just say. They have to be smaller because we had to be able to fit them on our elevator, and then they had to not fall through the floor. As you can kind of see from that picture there, that we are in a very old warehouse. It's from 1907 originally, and we actually had to put down steel plates just to kind of distribute the weight of the balers that we've got. We don't actually have our own forklifts. Luckily, the guy that owns the warehouse has those forklifts available for anybody that is renting space in the warehouse. So we do use forklifts when we're actually loading the semis for the plastic and such. And then we do have 2 stackers so that we can kind of stack the bales a little bit more efficiently before we take them down to the dock and load them when we need to do that. And then what we take at the hub is pretty extensive. I won't go to this whole list. I'll kind of get into the categories in a minute. But anything on this slide, if it's in the light green, that's something that we do charge for. That's because we end up having to pay for those things to be processed when we send them out. And then anything that's in the darker green, that is stuff that we do take for free. We do kind of have one mantra, which is everything must be clean and dry. Now, some of the electronics, you know, they can be dusty, what have you, but anything that we take in for recycling must be clean and dry, partly because we don't want to have to deal with smells and critters and all of that kind of fun stuff. But partly too, because we need to get as much value out of that as we can when we actually send it off to be processed. So as Dawn was talking about the 12 cents per pound for the Trex, we want to make sure we can get that full 12 cents for if all of the film is not clean, then we won't get that amount back. And it takes a lot of labor, both volunteer and staff labor, to get everything to where it's got to go. So we will never make enough money from the things that we send out to cover all of our fees, you know, all of our expenses. So we want to make sure that we can get every little penny that we can for those. And then, as I mentioned, so things on that other sheet can kind of be broken into these 4 categories. So I mentioned the TerraCycle. So that is, again, where Kroger and Procter & Gamble and Brita and Taco Bell will pay TerraCycle to collect their packaging. So we can take Brita filters, we can take Taco Bell sauce packets, we can take Kroger branded packaging, and we send those in. I think we have about 40 different collections. And again, there's kind of a bin for everything. And then we send that off and get a little bit of money for that when we send that out. Electronics and universal waste recycling. So that's, again, some of the things that Dawn was talking about. As I mentioned earlier, when I did electronics recycling at Mount St. Joe, we had events where people would be bringing stuff to us. And at one point, Oak Hills High School, which is just a local high school here, said, hey, we can help you with that, because the football coach at the time was a Mount St. Joe alum. And he said, I can bring the entire football team to help unload cars. And I thought, that'll be great. I thought I had overplanned, and we had 3 semi-loads or 3 semi-trailers available. I was wrong. It turned out that it filled 5 semi-trailers. So we actually had 2 semis that had to go and be unloaded and come back and then, you know, be refilled again. And it was a total of 764 cars through the line in 2.5 hours. And even with the 2 loads going and coming back, I still had to tell 150 people we couldn't take their stuff. And one of the things that just killed me, there was an older woman in a light blue minivan with a big wooden console TV. And she said, where can I take this now? And I had to look at her and say, I have no idea. And that just killed me. So kind of, as Dawn was saying, it's like people need somewhere to go with these things. So we said, okay, well, we're going to start taking them. And the only way that I could sort of see solving that logistics issue of never knowing how many semi-trailers you were going to need, et cetera, was having a warehouse where we could take everything in. And if, you know, we got too much in one day, then the truck can come back another day and get it. The third program that we have is the Beyond the Bin recycling. So that's kind of the oddball things that don't fit any of the other 3 categories. So that's tires, that's car seats, that's electronic media, so DVDs and CDs and VHS tapes. That's all of the different types of styrofoam we collect. That's plant pots. That is silica packets that come in shoes and things like that. That is egg cartons. That is packing materials. That's binders. All of that kind of stuff. Some of the stuff goes out for recycling, but a lot of that is stuff that we actually have on our shelves for people to come and, you know, quote unquote shop if there's something that they need. And then the last program, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is the Zero Landfill program. So that is the carpet samples, the fabric swatches, the wallpaper books. And we will have, you know, scout troops come in, they'll take the wallpaper books. And if it's, you know, vinyl wallpaper, they can make sit-upons for that for day camps. We've had people that came in to get tile, and they tiled, you know, their bathroom, or they tiled their kitchen because they kind of pick just sort of random neutral color things. So, you know, anything sort of in the tan color scheme, and they put it in, and it just, you know, it's kind of a mix and match sort of thing. But because they're all in that that same color family, it works. We've had people come in from the University of Cincinnati. They have a DAP program, which I think is design, art, architecture, and maybe there might be another something in there. They have come to get supplies, and they've made costumes from it, fashion, other kind of design, things. And it's always amazing to kind of see what they come up with. As far as where things go, kind of like Dawn had too, it's like, this is a huge list. This is only a partial list. But we send as much as we can to other nonprofits to kind of help them do sort of as much good as they can. So for instance, the Lions Club, they get all of our prescription glasses because they already have a program to distribute glasses to people who need them. Blue Jeans Go Green, they will take denim for recycling, and then they make insulation for houses. A portion of what they make every year goes to Habitat for Humanity when they are building, houses around the country. Souls for Souls will take usable gym shoes. The Cincinnati Tool Bank is actually a place that other nonprofits can rent tools and tables and chairs and things that they might need for an event. So we donate usable things to them so that is sort of more in their library of things to rent out to other organizations. Ronald McDonald House Charities, that's just the pop tabs that we actually send to them. The Civic Garden Center, so that's a local nonprofit that does a lot of community gardens around the area. So we give them plant pots, we give them tools, trowels and shovels and things like that when they come into us so that they can do their programs as well. Again, I won't kind of go through everything. Some of the things on the bottom there are for-profit companies. Some of those are things that we can send stuff to for free. Some are things that we actually have to pay for them to go to, like tire discounters. So they just have a program where anybody can take in, a tire and pay $3.50 to have that recycled. We charge a little bit more than that. So we charge $6 for a standard tire, just that we can send it to them. And then that covers our transportation cost. So as you can kind of see, a lot of these are all programs that existed without the hub. So we are trying to kind of solve the recycling and reuse issue and increase all of that by creating the infrastructure to make that happen. So we're really solving the logistics issue of how do you get things to all of these places without having to go to 12 different places. So we've made it so you can come to the hub, we'll sort it to where it's got to go and get it to those 12 places for you. So that saves people who come to the hub, the time, the energy, the gas, to do more good and to be sort of more invested, so to speak. And they feel, because they can get a lot of things kind of off of their to-do list very quickly just by bringing it to us, that they kind of get that little, shot of, I can't even remember what it is, oxytocin, I think it is, that makes people feel good for doing good. And we have a lot of just very dedicated recyclers who come to the hub because of that. There are some organizations that we can't take stuff that they take. For instance, the Habitat for Humanity restores, who take furniture, or St. Vincent de Paul or Goodwill, when they're taking just textiles and things like that, that's just more than we could handle at our location. So we just refer people to those locations. Or if people say, I've got a whole lot of books, we refer them to Half Price Books and say, hey, you can get a little bit of money from them. We do take some things excuse me, to some of these locations, but it really just kind of depends on the volume that's coming to us. Sorry, fighting cold. As far as our impact, we've kept 310 tons of items that have been recycled or reused out of the landfill since April of 2021. Again, I won't go through like all of the numbers right here, but to put some of this in perspective, 90 tons of that, more than 90 tons of that actually, was electronics. And then just the expanded polystyrene, so the styrofoam that would come, with a TV, or if you get medication shipped to you on a monthly basis or what have you, just the styrofoam would have filled 9 semi-trailers, and it was approximately 9 tons. And it's amazing. Like after Christmas last year, we collect styrofoam in a big 20 bushel basket, or rolling cart kind of thing. And I think the first day that we were open, we had 20 bags of that within like 2 hours. It is amazing how much styrofoam is in the world. And as mentioned earlier, we do have the offsite collections. And this is partly because we want to make it easier for people to get stuff to us. So there are some organizations who have taken it upon themselves to collect things like the Off-Pike Market, where the logo is there. They will collect straws and things like that and bring those to us. The Loveland Sustainability Council, so they're kind of northeast of Cincinnati, about 45 minutes away from the hub. They actually have a collection area in their administrative building up there, and they brought, I think, 3 cargo van loads of stuff to us yesterday. Just stuff that they collected. They made sure it was sorted. They made sure it was clean. And then the Sustainability Council got it to us. And then something else that we set up earlier this year, we actually got a grant from, or a sponsorship from Rumpke, which is our main solid waste hauler around here. They gave us a sponsorship so that we could collect lithium batteries from 5 different fire stations around the area, just because lithium batteries are a huge issue with Rumpke. They've had fires in their MRF, they've had fires in their trucks, they've had fires in the landfill. And the more that we can get those lithium batteries out of the waste stream and, responsibly disposed of, then the less fires that they will have. So they kind of saw it as a basically a cheaper investment than having to pay, to have a MRF rebuilt potentially, by paying us to try to help get some of that stuff out of the waste stream. As far as how we're funded, we rely heavily on individual donors at this point. This is actually the data from last year, and it's pretty similar for this year. We are still a pretty new nonprofit. There's still a lot of people who have not found us yet. We've done a decent job trying to get some grants, and then we do have earned income again for some of those items that we have to charge for. But in general, a lot, half of what we make, quote unquote, is from individual donors who see what we're doing and they want it to continue. We actually had a woman and her husband came in, and they had brought all of the plastic that they had saved for all of COVID, and it took up the entire floor space of our drop-off area. And she just kind of said, looked at it all and said, we can't keep doing this. We have grandkids. And a couple months later, a check from $25,000 showed up from them. So people are very happy with what we do and they want it to continue. We are primarily volunteer-based though, so we also could not do it without all of the hands helping to make light work. We have 11 paid employees. 4 of those are full-time and the rest are all part-time. But we do hope to add an additional 5 employees next year, just because there's so much to do and people are saying, hey, can you start doing XYZ? And it's like, we can, but we need somebody to manage that program. So we're trying to expand that kind of whenever we've got the funding to do so. And then we also welcome tours. So you can visit us, again, kind of west of downtown Cincinnati. So if you're ever in the area, if you know you're going to be in the area, in a week or two, what have you, just email us and then we can set up a time for you to come and see the space, because we feel like that's the best way for people to really understand sort of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and see kind of the scale of what we're doing. We do have plans to eventually get to a bigger location. We think at our permanent location we'll need 100,000 square feet, so about 3 times more than what we currently have. But at that location, we also want to partner with about 20 other nonprofits who are kind of all in the sustainability realm. So to have a community garden, to have composting. There's an organization that builds furniture for kind of a Habitat for Humanity kind of nonprofit here. So we want all of us to sort of be co-located so that we can all do sort of more good together. And then that's my contact information. If you do want to come set up a tour, if you've got questions and just want to, understand more of how we're doing things. And then I'll stop it here and then hopefully be able to see, because I couldn't see any questions as they were coming through.
We just have a couple questions. We do have somebody that was interested in coming down and seeing if this is replicable. Do you feel like this process could actually be, transferred across the state?
Yeah, and we actually kind of did it with the idea that this would be sort of a blueprint for other locations. There are some, I will say one of the biggest hurdles is we just happened to get a really dedicated group of people who said, we want to make this happen. So like I was not paid, even though I was working full time for about a year and a half. The same for the warehouse director. But we think that there are ways to make it happen. And the more places like us that there are, the more that we'll all collectively be able to kind of keep out of the landfill, and the more we'll sort of be able to talk to each other and say, okay, how can you what do you do with XYZ? Like with the flags, it was like, never even thought of the flags from when Don was presenting. So just kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and then kind of use best practices between all of the collaborations.
Fantastic. Approximately, not that I'm asking for exact numbers, but if we were going to do this, like, what is the operative budget for these?
Okay, so this current year, our total operating budget was, I think it was 534,000. And then next year, if we add on the additional programs, it will be closer to 850,000. But just to kind of put this in perspective, we literally started with a $10,000 grant it would have been like the fall of 2020, which gave us a couple of months of just warehouse rent, and able to buy, some of the equipment we needed. And then we were kind of just able to grow it slowly over the next couple of years.
That tells your story right there.
Yep.
I think John has something to add. Yes, John, since we're kind of on your question.
Real quick, Colleen, some of our folks came down and visited you here recently from Montgomery County. I'm very impressed, and they want to duplicate. So obviously they want to work with the solid waste district, and wonderful people, kind of like you described, dedicated. But I appreciate you answering the operational costs. What's your estimated annual revenues to offset those costs?
So as far as just the like the earned income, it ends up being about, like, I think it's 14% of all of that. Because like I said, about up till now, about half of what we've had has been donations, about a quarter of it's grants, and then a smaller amount for fundraising, sponsorships, in-kind donations, like we've never had to buy a pallet. So just kind of cobbling together the little bits and pieces. Our biggest expense right now is our employees. Our second biggest is our rent.
So your earned income is 14% of your expenses?
Yeah.
So how do you stay afloat? I'm missing something.
Because we're a nonprofit, so we only make about 14%, or 14% of our income is from our earned income. The rest is all donations, sponsorships, and grants. So the earned income is what we consider like the money that from the fees that we charge.
So the rest of the income that you have to cover the 534 is through donations, grants, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
And we have one last question for you. With the battery collection with the firefighters, are you expecting them to kind of safely do that, or how, like?
So this was something where, because of my background actually as the chemistry lab manager at Mount St. Joe, I sort of knew how to do this because I had to do this at Mount St. Joe. So we actually have containers of various sizes, because it's amazing how many different sizes lithium batteries come in for cell phones, for laptops, etc. So we have containers that we bought that are that meet the DOT regulations. I want to say it's there's an X in it in the actual code for it. And so we've got a container, we've got vermiculite to fill up the dead space. So the battery goes in a bag, the bag goes in the container, we fill it with vermiculite, there's a seal that goes on it, and then the lid goes on it. And that's for any of the damaged ones. For any of the non-damaged ones, the battery can just go into a bag, and then all of those non-damaged batteries can be packed together in a big 5-gallon pail. Again, with kind of like a locking lid. And then we did provide training. We've got training materials for both damaged and undamaged that we gave to the firefighters and kind of walked them through the training. Next year, we're hoping to expand it so that we actually have a video available to kind of show the hands-on, this is exactly how you put everything together.
Fantastic. Well, I am certain that there's probably more questions, but we're out of time for right now. If you do want to add some more questions to the chat, we'll make sure that we can get those to Colleen and we can get some answers back. Our last up and coming or newly online presentation is Julie Riley. She is from Lucas County. And as I mentioned earlier, they were a recipient of the state funding for the Swiffer grant to help a much needed cause of building a MRF in Northwest Ohio. And it does look like we possibly will be going over today. So sorry that. Hopefully Julie's on. Maybe she had a meeting this morning from the commissioner, so maybe Julie may not have been able to get back to us. Does not look like Julie's on. So which is actually helpful as far as time-wise, not that it's helpful that we're missing her information. But I'll either have her try to add her to a future meeting, or we can try to get her presentation out to us. The next presenter actually does fit right into the conversations that we're having, and that is Amy McCormick, who is with the Kroger Company, and she's going to share their Zero Hero program, Zero Hunger, Zero Waste initiative, and sustainability. And thank you, Amy, for joining us. I do appreciate the last minute kind of add on, but I think you do add a lot to our conversation. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate the invite and spending some time with the team here. I do, just give me just a second and I will share my screen. And if I can just get a yes, you can see my screen.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So I am Amy McCormick. I am currently part of our integration management office, but most recently was in our Columbus division, covering pretty much all of Central Ohio, all of Toledo, a couple stores in West Virginia, handling media relations, government relations, and all of our philanthropic efforts, as well as our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste social impact plan. So before I jump in to share what is Zero Hunger, Zero Waste from a Kroger perspective, I'd like to show this video. It just kind of gives a little bit of an overview for anyone who's not super familiar with Kroger and who we are.
In 1883, Barney Kroger started with 17 feet, $372, a horse named Dan, and one simple motto: never sell anything you would not want yourself. He baked his own bread so he could sell it at a lower price. And to provide more convenience, Kroger was the first to put a butcher shop inside a grocery. Now, this may not seem like a big deal today, but in 1883, this was revolutionary. This was the origin of the modern-day supermarket. And it worked. Like, really worked. 25 years later, Kroger had 136 stores. It had supply chains. It had loyal customers. It had purpose. And obviously, it had potential. By 1929, Kroger was operating more than 5,000 stores. But the desire to provide the best experience for the best price never wavered. And as we morphed from market to supermarket, Kroger became the first company to scientifically test the products in our stores. We developed an open dating system to ensure freshness of the food. And for convenience, we introduced specialty stores and added checkout lanes, lots of them. Through strategic mergers and acquisitions, Kroger spread from coast to coast. And less than 100 years after Barney opened his first tiny store in Cincinnati, Kroger sales topped $5 billion. We are now the largest florist in the country, and our pharmacies fill more than 200 million prescriptions every year. We operate 19 dairies, 42 distribution centers, and employ nearly 500,000 people in over 2,000 locations. And while today's stores look fundamentally different than the original, and some don't even have the same names, our commitment to the customer remains the same. And from generation to generation, from horse-drawn carriage to home delivery and beyond, It doesn't matter how our products are getting to the customers' tables. What matters is the experience. It's the people, the smiles, that human connection. This is why Barney Kroger opened his first store. This is why we get out of bed every morning. This is our purpose, to feed the human spirit. This is Kroger.
So that's a little bit of a history. Again, before I jump right in, I always like to share a little bit about the great company that I work for. And I love the sentiment that, you know, we get out of bed in the morning to feed the human spirit. And when people ask me what I do for a living, for 33 years, I have been feeding people by working at the Kroger company. And it sickens me when we think we produce enough food to feed everyone on the planet, but roughly 38% of the food produced every day in the United States goes to waste. So you think about 38%, around 229 million pounds of million tons of surplus food, unsold, uneaten, go to waste, but 1 in 8 Americans go to bed hungry. And that has led us to our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste social impact plan that we began in 2017. We've always been connected, but we really narrowed the focus several years ago, really putting all of our energy and efforts into ending hunger in our communities and eliminating waste inside our stores. So just to share, I wanted to take a little bit of an opportunity to highlight a few of the things that we're doing when we say, well, we're going to end hunger, we're going to remove waste. What are we doing to do that? So you'll see here the Roundup program. We have a very robust opportunity for our customers and communities to help provide funding to local food banks and other hunger ending organizations through our Roundup program. From the time we started the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Public Charities Foundation to date, we have given $1.3 billion in strategic funding to feed more people in our community. So I always like to give a plug when you're shopping your local Kroger. Please consider rounding up. We also have the option at self-checkout. So if you're not going through a manned register where a cashier can ask you if you want to, you have the opportunity to do that at self-checkout as well. Plastic recycling. So we talk about a greener planet as part of our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste program. So we have made a commitment by 2025 to remove all single-use plastic from our stores. Don't ask me what that plan is. We're still working through the components of that, but we also, I'll talk a little bit later, and I heard Colleen mention our TerraCycle relationship. So I'll highlight that in a future slide. But really where I want to dig in is when we talk about that surplus food or that uneaten, unsold food. So we have a very robust Zero Hunger, Zero Waste food rescue program in our stores. So you'll see in that bottom corner, we call it our internally our red bag program. So the process and I'll just use produce since that's the image we have there. And you take every day, at the top of the hour, every one of our perishable departments are really culling produce. We're looking through, because our consumers, as you come into our stores, you want fresh, right? No one's going to say, I want to go to a store and not get fresh food, right? So what I'll use an apple for an example. And you come into the store, if I'm in a store and I see a blemish on an apple, I'm going to pull that, because as a consumer coming in, we see that as not fresh. But we all know on this call that there's nothing wrong with that apple. I could peel away that, probably even could eat that little spot, right? It's not going to hurt me. But again, we're going to pull that from the sales floor. We're going to put that in our red bag program. So we have a lot of our customers who will come in every day looking for those kind of manager specials and markdowns, just a little bit imperfect produce, if you will. So the produce team is going to identify what we put on, and I call it the recipe ready rack. And then that apple, the next day they're going to make a decision. Let's say at that point, nothing wrong with the apple, but it just has that slight blemish. We're going to move that into our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste food rescue then. And we partner with Feeding America food banks to come into all of our stores, the Free Store Food Bank. Colleen, you're in Cincinnati. We've got Mid-Ohio Food Collective, covers 20 of our Columbus division area stores. I could go on and on, but we partner with all of them, and if they're not coming in, they're sending in one of their Feeding America agency partners, and they're coming into our stores and picking up our food rescue, and then it's going to a local pantry and is nourishing someone in our in our community. Now, let's say I show up the next day and I pick up that apple and it's a little mushy. It's not going to be, it can't be donated. So at that point, all of our stores have food waste recycling bins in the back, and they're going to make the decision to move that into the recycling bin. And putting that in the recycling bin, then we partner with Quest Management, and different divisions of Kroger do different things. Some do compost. In the Columbus division, I can speak to that we do animal feed, whereas some, again, do compost. We have a few locations that do complete circular with anaerobic digestion. But again, it's that full circle. My ultimate goal is that nothing goes to the landfill, right? So when we look at just some to-date figures on that, we do have 82% total diversion, 45% food waste. To date, we have rescued 582 million pounds with 100% of our stores participating in food rescue, with the Feeding America partners coming in and having product to pick up. And then 92% of our stores are participating in some form of food waste recycling beyond the donation portion. Now, how does all that work? Because it's very easy for me to say we do that. So if you were to visit any of our stores, you're going to find donate it and recycle it posters throughout. They're very self-explanatory, lots of images, really highlighting where, like if I'm someone who just maybe started in the dairy department, and as I'm making decisions on product and date, but maybe there's just a damage to something, I got to figure out what am I going to do with this. I can quickly look and see what I can put in the donation pile, what I can put in then the recycling piece. The bottom, it'll have the information on the days, so I know the schedule for when I need to have the bin ready for the food bank when they come to pick it up, and then recycling, again, showing what I can and can't put in that recycling bin in the back. Now, we also arm our stores with lots of data. Who doesn't love a good dashboard? So we have lots of individual information from food rescue to waste material, our individual stores. I know if I'm going to go out and visit a store, I'm able to look and see, okay, how are we tracking? Maybe I can see a store I'm going to go to is doing a lot of donation from bakery, deli, maybe meat and seafood, but I'm not seeing a lot in produce. So maybe there's some education that I need to do. And I know all of you, that's key, right? Is you have to educate the community on the services that you're providing, so they're not just disposing of certain items. So we have the same thing within each of our stores. Training is ongoing to make sure that our associates understand the process and the benefits to our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste programming. And we have lots of training processes, but this is really just key for leadership to be able to dig in and determine where we might have a disconnect, to be able to connect with store teams and do training. So anytime I talk about Zero Hunger, Zero Waste, I always like to talk about what you can do and what you can share with your community members. Because the one thing we know is when we say at Kroger, we're going to end hunger, it is a moonshot goal, and it is not something we are going to do alone. It's going to take all of us working together. So again, I loved hearing the TerraCycle mention already. So all of our brands, and a lot of people don't realize our brands is more than just Kroger brand. So we have Private Selection, Simple Truth, Love Some. I could go at Heritage Farm. We could go on and on with lots of Kroger brand product. And we have partnered with TerraCycle for recycling those particular packaging. So you can, obviously, some of you are connecting and as a drop-off location, but then folks can also collect those, go online and print off then a shipping label and send all of that back. I know anything and everything that can be recycled in our household is recycled. So this is a great program. And then again, highlighting, I talked about our commitment to removing single-use plastic bags, but I always like to highlight, because a lot of consumers don't know that. They know that we offer in-store recycling, but they think it's just the bags, single-use grocery bags. And we accept anyone's single-use grocery bags. You can bring our competitors in, free just to have Kroger ones, and that's the only place you're shopping. But I recognize that that's not always the case. So we accept any of those. We want people to bring those in. you'll see the list here. I won't read it all, but you can clean out a bread bag. You can empty out a resealables Ziploc type bag, plastic cereal bag. So definitely want to share, in case you didn't know, but we work with Trex, and all of our plastic goes to them and is made into other items. Also like to share this, we have a lot of resources at zerohunger.org, as well as on the krogerco.com. You can go there, and I always like to share that I sell groceries for a living, right? When someone is shopping, and where you put items in your freezer and in your fridge can help reduce food waste. Because while we're working within our stores to remove waste, a lot of the waste does come from the consumer once we get it home. And how you shop, I always say shop with a list, right? That's going to help when you get home to make sure you're utilizing everything. But then let's say you have stuff in your refrigerator and you're just not sure what to do with it. We have the amazing, if you're on Twitter, you do have to utilize Twitter. You can connect with our chef bot. So it's basically a smart recipe bot who uses a visual AI to see up to 2,000 ingredients and then can unlock almost 20,000 recipes. So it's very simple. You would just snap a photo of up to 3 ingredients that, maybe, you know what, I didn't freeze that chicken quick enough, so I'm going to have to do something, but I'm just not sure what I wanted, maybe a side to go with it. But I have a few things in my refrigerator. You take that photo, you're going to tweet that with the tag at Kroger Chef Bot, and then one of the recipes the Chef Bot sends back, then you make it. So super simple. The other thing I always like to share is I'm talking a lot about the stores, and I can speak to this particular program that we have done in the Columbus division of Kroger. So at one point, a couple of years ago, I'm like, we're really pushing the education and ensuring that we're removing food waste from our stores. But, I'm sitting here and I've got waste in my trash can at my desk, right? So we need to do something within our offices. So we removed everyone's trash can and set up stations within each of the 3 floors of our division office. So we partnered with someone from our compost standpoint. We were already offering some recycling, but really doing that, it allowed an opportunity for all of us to be educated on and us owning the decision. So if I don't finish my lunch now, instead of just putting that entire thing in the trash can, I'm getting up, I'm getting some steps in, I always say, walking over to that center, making a decision, what can go in the compost, if there's anything that I could recycle. And then I feel good because I'm putting less in that landfill container. So with that was a lot. I just kind of rambled on there. So I will quit presenting so I can see the chat and see if there's any questions. Or if anyone wants to come, I see John maybe has a question. Or that might have been a hand raised from earlier.
I'm just gonna jump in with a question here. This is Colleen again. So do all of the non-Kroger stores that are all part of the Kroger company do all of these same things, or is this just the Kroger stores themselves that are doing the composting and everything?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
is.
awesome.
It is from the Kroger company, and then we're the parent company with so you're talking Fred Meyer, yeah.
That's
Dillons,
awesome.
yes,
So
yes,
that's
it is
huge.
an entire organization. Yep.
Yeah, and I also just want to say thank you too, because we also got a grant from you all to help us start taking #1 plastics. So recycle.
Yay, that's great to hear. Yeah, that's a sentiment to our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Public Charities Foundation, and the importance of rounding up. Obviously, Kroger is contributing to that fund as well, but it's a community effort. We will not end hunger. We will not remove waste. We will within our stores, but for the hunger piece is so important too. And anything anyone can, when people are looking to what can I do, I always say round up and recycle your plastic at our store. And I think I saw a hand raise. Erica?
Yeah, hi, Amy. Thank you. We are starting for 2024 a food waste type program for our residents. And we had noticed in Columbus, Waco had recently got with Kroger and got some pretty handy signs and some things that they are putting in their Kroger. Is that a program that maybe you're in charge with and know, and that maybe we could kind of piggyback off, because we're literally just south of Columbus?
So we were not actually able to do that from an in-store signage perspective. We're actually trying to reduce signage. So when you look at what the consumer is, we all know we have a lot thrown at us. And so that is actually, I think, Amy, yes, I saw some of my peeps from Swaco on there. They are partnering, I believe, with one of our competitors on that particular program. But we do have opportunities within each of our stores for advertising. Some of that is paid advertising, but definitely you can reach out. I'd be more than welcome to look at what you have, and then we can determine with our advertising folks if something is feasible.
Okay, thank you.
And John?
Hi, Amy. I think you've been up here and spoke to our food summit group at one time, so it's good to see you again. We are getting ready to have another event in 2024. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is a piece on educating the public. It's actually going to be a public festival. And so if we wanted to get Kroger involved, would we contact you, or is there somebody else, or we could contact you and you'll redirect us?
Absolutely. You can reach out. I put my email in the chat.
Yes.
So send me an email with the details based on the area and all of that. I definitely, if it's not me personally, I can definitely get someone on our team who can help out.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy.
Fantastic. Well, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful presentations from all of you. You have really got to start thinking outside our boxes of how we can really hone in on our community and how do we make this wonderful package. I know that we do focus and our priorities are on recycling, but recycling equals diversion of landfill, and diversion of landfill equals a lot more opportunities in our recycling boxes than just the traditional things. So thank you guys for your wonderful presentations. Thank you for the time that you have provided us today. And we're going to kind of wrap it up in a bow with April, who is kind of going to share with us an update from this round of Ohio EPA recycling litter prevention grants and all the other fun, cool things that DEFA does up there for me, there, but out there.
Just gonna bring up a couple things. I know we're running late. So the good news is I have a really short PowerPoint. So no problem. Let me know. Is this showing up? I'm doing it in the present live format. So hopefully it's coming up. Okay. Okay, good. I think I've met most of you, but again, I'm April Stevens. I'm the environmental supervisor with the Recycling and Sustainability Unit within the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance, or DEFA, as we call it. So as most of you know, we just closed our grant cycle for the 2024 funding. And we received 177 applications totaling almost 10 million. I kind of really wanted to get to that 10 million point, but we did not. But this is the breakdown. The community litter, that's pretty typical. We usually get about 4 million. The source reduction is kind of our water bottle refilling stations right now, but we are looking to expand that category. So we're kind of calling it source reduction from now on. We're looking to add some things in that center on things like food recovery, kind of like what Amy was talking about from Kroger. We're wanting to expand some offerings to help with food waste recovery and some other source reduction. So stay tuned for that. I think 21 market development grants is the most we've ever had. So we're super excited to take a look at those. And so that is what we've got. Funding wise, again, we've got almost 10 million in ask. We did get an increase in spending authority for the 24-25 fiscal year biennium budget. We're anticipating that we have up to $7.5 million to spend from our recycling litter prevention fund for the year, though. I'm not sure how much of that will be allocated to this grant round. A significant portion of it will be. Again, we will fund projects that are worth funding. We do score these, and we usually fund, ones that score over a certain percent. So we do have the ability to fund quite a bit of these, but not all of them. We have 1 million in our scrap tire. I think if you might have seen, we had 1.6 come in for scrap tire. If we do fund all of those, we typically take some out of our recycling and litter prevention fund. Oh, you guys can't see my slides.
They're small. We can see them all, but they're all small.
Let me try a different way to share this.
I
can see everything.
I can see them.
large.
Yeah. I think it's just in your presentation, like the individual presentation view.
There you go. I synced you, so you're good. I'm sorry, it's my fault.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't want to, I'm going over a lot of stuff that's visual, so I want to make sure you see it. So, okay, I will keep moving on. So for the schedule, so we have now passed all of the grants on to our technical reviewers. As you know, my team works very closely with a lot of you. I know I have a lot of applicants on the call. And as you know, we work really closely with you when you're preparing your application. So we don't feel that it's a good idea for us to score them. It's a little bit of a conflict of interest since we've kind of helped you along the way. So we do have teams throughout Ohio EPA that score these. So they've gotten their marching orders yesterday. We have given them through the beginning of January to do the reviews. And then we'll get together and look at all the scores, start making some cutoffs. Then we do a administrative and compliance review. That does take some time. So we're hoping to finish that by the end of February, early March, and then quickly present our recommendations to the director, and then make awards sometime by the end of late March, hopefully sooner. I wanted to under promise, over deliver on that. Again, it all depends on how quickly we can get everything done and get these presented to her. But Director Vogel will make those funding decisions in March, and then the grant funding starts April 1st. So projects can start on April 1st and we'll run through March 31st of 2025, which was a new timeline. Hopefully you all were aware of that timeline. So that's the grants. And then just briefly, since, we're kind of in the lull for the grant period right now, I wanted to bring up kind of our next initiative that we'll be working on is our Encouraging Environmental Excellence Award program. We accept applications year round, but we cut off for each award class on April 30th. So we're hoping to get this last year for 2023, we had the most applications and most awards we've ever given out. So we're hoping to continue to do that and to recognize all of our partners out around the state that are doing some really excellent things. The Encouraging Environmental Excellence kind of classic is for businesses, nonprofits, and other organizations, colleges and universities. Our communities, Encouraging Environmental Excellence in Communities, is for local governments or divisions within local governments. And then our Encouraging Environmental Excellence in Education is for K through 12 public and private schools. So if you know of some businesses, nonprofits, schools, or even, other areas of your communities that are doing some really, really great things, please share the word about this. We would love to get lots more applications and be able to recognize as many people as we can within the state with this program. And that's all I've got. And again, as always, me, Marie, and Carrie are the grant team. Happy to help with any questions you have grant related or with Encouraging Environmental Excellence or any other programs.
Thank you so much for joining us and giving us that update on the new grant cycle and everything that's come in. So thank you. We do have Michelle Mountjoy, who is our rules coordinator. She's going to just briefly talk about some of the rules and rule updates.
Hi, everyone. I know you're 10 minutes over, so I'm literally only going to take 1 minute or 2 minutes to tell you that we reached the end of rule filing season for Ohio EPA. We always file our rules with the legislature but before November 30th to tie everything up nice for Christmas. The legislature has a December carryover provision so that we really strive to not file rules in December unless there's an emergency. But before that deadline approached, we were able to file the beneficial use rules. That's the solid waste beneficial use. Well, I guess it's also industrial waste and other waste. So those rules were filed, and then we were also able to file the solid waste landfill operational rules. That's for those of you familiar with our landfill program, that is 2719. And so those public hearings, we have public hearings coming up for those January 5th. And if you're interested, you can go to our website and you can register for the public hearing virtually. We also allow people to join us in person, but if you just want to listen and see what goes on, you can join virtually. You don't have to submit testimony. Obviously, you're welcome to. And then after that, we'll probably appear on a legislative commission hearing on tentatively January 8th. So until then, we'll be working on some interested party drafts and some early stakeholder outreach stuff. That's things that we can do in December, but then you'll see a kickoff to more rule filings when the new session for the legislature starts in January. That's January 2nd. So if you have any questions, get with Lindsay or Jeff. They can always put you in touch with me, or I can give you my info as well.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Oh, keeping us in the loop.
You're welcome, Lindsay.
I keep going in and out of there. Sorry. That leads us to the last piece. I do have a couple announcements that people have shipped my way, and I encourage you, before as you get our announcements, if you have anything to send to me, please get it to me. So I have Doreen. I don't even know how do you say her last name, but from Cuyahoga County. I don't want to butcher it, but anyway, she is our coordinator for our business recycling outreach efforts. And I have put in the chat the Zoom link and her contact information if you would like to join those conversations, as she's heading up the business recycling efforts. And the next meeting for that is scheduled for December 13th at 10 a.m. It is a Zoom meeting, as I said, but we talk a lot about business, recycling, the challenges, and some of those. And then in addition to that, we also have the educators workshop or work group. And so that next meeting is going to be February the 7th at 10 a.m. And I will drop Kim's name into the chat, who is kind of the one that is Kim and Louise are the two that are heading up the educators meeting work group. And both of those meetings are great outlets and just to kind of brainstorm and to kind of touch base with others that are focusing on those. Those meetings do run on a quarterly basis. And the last piece that somebody sent, actually Brad sent it to me over, is that the AOR annual meeting is coming up on December 13th. And then look forward to 2024. Our next meeting will be in March 7th. It's always the first Thursday of the last month of each quarter. So March 7th will be our next joint work group meeting. Between now and then, we will kick off our MRF data, as well as a lot of you guys kicking off with a collection of surveys and community data. We're trying to work and expand our circle and working with universities and colleges. So hopefully we'll be able to share some of that effort and a few other things that are coming in March. That concludes. I'm sorry that we ran over a little bit today, but we had some awesome discussions with our presentations, and hopefully you found some value in our work group meeting. I'm always open to suggestions to topics and those things. I do work with OSWATO to kind of come up with this joint meeting. But thank you for your time. Thank you for everything that we've done over the year. And I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and Happy New Year. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Lindsay.